live, coming to you from the bowels of Lee's Music. It's a chilly day out there in Kamloops. It's a little bit windy. Winter is coming, and
winter is coming.
So are the Coyotes, according to Wayne Allen.
Wayne Allen. That's why we all should arm up.
Arm up. Get your guns out. Your Tommy guns. The Coyotes are coming. Great show today. Love the show. Let's talk about politics first. What do you want to talk about today?
Well, we're going to talk about the election. As we tape this on September 16th, the election is 4 days away. And today we have a professor of political science from TRU, Terry Kading. He'll be speaking to us, and we'll talk a bit about the final days of the election and the campaign, tepid as it has been. I know you watched the local debate the other night too. I want to get your take on that. I'll offer a few tidbits as well on that, as well as lots of Kamloops Blazers talk. Are you going to go to the game tomorrow night? No, I'm not going to the game tomorrow night. However, I will go to some regular season games, and the fans lining up outside of Sandman Centre was quite impressive, and it shows that there is a definite appetite for watching hockey live again. We'll deal with that today with Mats Lindgren, two Mats Lindgrens, the former Canuck Mats Lindgren, brief cup of coffee with the Canucks, and also the current Kamloops Blazer and a top WHL prospect defenseman Mats Lindgren, Shaun Clouston, and we have the voice of the Kamloops Blazers on today, our insider Jon Keen of Radio NL joining us as well. But first, I went to Ladysmith with my guy Herman. Let's give him some camera time, just to make sure he's fresh for today's show. And this show is not possible without New Leaf Produce Market. Check this commercial out right now. Eyes on the camera. Okay, buddy? Let's go. Marty Hastings here outside New Leaf Produce Market with my new best Herman. Look at the camera, pal. Stay on your feet. Herman is paying us to do this commercial, but he said this. He said, Marty, on one condition. I do not want to be in the commercial. And I said, Herman, that is complete and total hogwash. You will be in the commercial. Because I won't let him be sheepish. Not when all of his produce is edible art. And not when it's a hyper-local labor of love from his family farm, Heffley Farms. And not when he sources seasonal product from more than 40 of the best regional suppliers, like Newfeld Farms in Abbotsford, British Columbia. I had to see it for myself. Nothing like a good road trip. In you get, Herman. Mark, yeah, but let's go. Get me some sour keys, pal. No peeking, Herman. Help my goodness, Steve. Are these strawberries ever good?
You're quiet today, Herman. Want some corn?
Have a bite, Herm. Okay. Oh, and yes, it's true. A lot of people have asked me. They say, Marty, is he awkward on camera? I say, you're darn right he is. But this is a quality man who deals only in quality produce, and he has to be seen. Right, Herm? Okay, bud, last chance to make the catch. Let's go. Embarrassing.
You're going to hurt Herman.
Fouldsy, let's talk about the produce here first. What do you see?
Well, the thing that I see that's really impressive, I don't see it now. I saw some banana peppers in there earlier.
Yeah, they're in here. They're hiding somewhere.
Oh, there's one right there.
Yeah, there's one right there.
Fantastic. The best thing in the world.
Pears, plums, apples.
What's that there? Eggplant?
That's an eggplant.
Yeah, it's a nice color. I like that.
Yeah. You can win this basket. Share the episode on Facebook. I'm going to kind of embarrass you. I don't think you knew this was coming, but you're up for a Webster. So is Jessica Wallace. Why don't you talk about Wallace's nomination for Webster Awards?
Yeah, the Webster Awards are some. They're named after Jack Webster, the legendary journalist, and it's for journalism excellence in BC. And Jessica Wallace is up for an award for best community reporting, although it could have been investigative enterprise reporting. It was such a good story. It's a series of stories on the spending controversy at the TNRD, and her stories led to a criminal investigation ongoing, led to a forensic audit that's ongoing, and it led to wholesale changes in spending policy at the regional district.
I mean, it's a slam dunk. It should be a slam dunk to win, my opinion, biased opinion. Loved your column as well. Can you just rehash what you wrote that's up for nomination as well?
Yeah, I'm against Gary Mason of the Globe and Mail and Les Lane of the Victoria Times columnist for commentary. Les Lane actually sent me a congratulatory email because he is a class act. My column is about, it's about, COVID and the deaths and how people cope with death as it's more in the news. And I just sort of touched on when my mom died 20 odd years ago, a piece of paper I have in my wallet, the last thing she ever wrote, and kind of just said to people it might help you if you have something to carry with you. The scraps they leave behind is what the column was called.
And your mom actually was a big fan of Jack Webster.
She loved Jack Webster. As we spoke before the show, she would be sitting there at 9 a.m. precisely watching Jack Webster grill politicians on BC TV back in the glory days.
And I'm sure she would be proud of Fouldsy today. And Fouldsy, it's your time to shine in the next segment, which is Above the Folds.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Floor is yours. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, we could start federally and work our way down locally to talk about the election. I think people are either tired of talking about the election or they haven't at all because the election has been superseded locally by wildfires, by the pandemic, by all sorts of things that are more important to people's lives than an election 23 months after the last election. However, the election's here. Everyone's voting on September 20th. And like I said before, I predicted it wasn't a great prediction. It wasn't an outlandish prediction, but we're going to end up exactly where we were before with a minority government $600 million later. But things have changed. Last time we spoke about the election, I said I think maybe the Conservatives might become, and they were coming up, and they might form the minority government. We know there'll be a minority government. I'm thinking it's going to be the Liberals again, Conservatives second. The big switch, I think, is the NDP is going to finish third overall. The Bloc's going to finish fourth. And everything else is going to be the same. Locally, many pundits are saying it's going to be a race between Conservative candidate Frank Caputo, who's trying to succeed Cathy McLeod, who's not running again as MP, and Bill Sandhu, the NDP candidate. That is the consensus, although there's some polling online that shows the Liberal Jesse McCormick higher up than most people think. We'll have to see how it goes.
You were tuned into that debate. What did you think of the debate? What are your takeaways?
We co-hosted a debate with Radio NL in the Chamber of Commerce on September 13th, and it was a pretty cordial affair. It was pretty dry. I think is because of the setting. We couldn't do it in front of an audience like we normally do. I thought the debate was predictable in that most questions and answers fell by the platform, so anyone not watching it could just go and look at the party's platform and see what they thought. There was a few insertions of original thought. Ian Curry from the Green Party was refreshingly candid. Of course, he can afford to be because even he knows he has a hard time winning. His party's not going to win. So when you have a hard time, vying for the top spot, you can say more things. But he did say a lot of things that made sense. He says a lot of issues there's a consensus on, but it's political hubris that stops the parties from coming together. But I thought the debate was predictable. It was fine. I thought every candidate did well in their own way, even the independents. They don't have much of a chance of winning, but kudos for them for running. Bob O'Brien and Wayne Allen. Wayne Allen called it direct democracy, and he's right. If he was elected by some miracle, it would be direct democracy because he doesn't report to anybody but the constituents.
What about Ian Curry? To me, he stood out as far as relatability and public speaking. Actually, what about just from a public speaking standpoint? Who stood out to you as being most comfortable?
Well, I think Ian Curry, and he's got experience at it as a Crown prosecutor and as a previous candidate, as does Bill Sandhu. Sandhu's a little more, a little less off the cuff, but Sandhu also, he's a former Crown prosecutor, former judge. I thought, I thought Jesse McCormick, I thought he was very statesmanlike too. He's a thoughtful speaker. He knows what he's talking about. He has pretty good pedigree. So I thought those three were. And Frank Caputo, as well. He's a Crown prosecutor. This is an election of lawyer candidates. They're almost all lawyers, so they know how to, they're good orators, and they know how to speak to people. So they all did quite well.
Before we move on to your interview with Terry Kading, just any other thoughts on the election on your mind right now?
I just think I think the turnout is going to be a key in closer ridings. The advanced polls September 10th, 11th, and 12th came out, and Kamloops, Thompson Caribou had the second largest turnout in all of BC's 42 ridings. We had 28,000 votes cast. Last time, in the last election, there was 19,000 advance votes cast in this riding. The only riding in BC that superseded us in this election for advance votes was North Okanagan-Shuswap. They had 29,000. So that tells me that more people are voting ahead of time, maybe because of the pandemic. The mail-in ballots are going to be much larger than last time too, as we saw in the provincial election, and that might mean that we might not know who the winner of the entire election is, possibly until late Monday night, maybe into Tuesday, depending on how many votes have to be counted from ballots mailed in.
Who is Terry Kading, and why did you interview him?
Terry Kading is a professor of political science, or as they say, political studies at Thompson Rivers University, and I just contacted Michelle Young, who is the very helpful media relations person at True, and she connected me with Terry Kading, and he teaches poli-sci. And we just wanted to speak with someone locally who has their pulse on the politics of the riding and the nation, and we had a good, I think it was 35-minute interview, and it's been cut down to a few minutes on here.
About 5 minutes.
In my opinion, we should just run the whole interview because it's better than
We
the show.
will as a standalone
Yes,
on YouTube, but don't worry, not right here.
No, and he has some good insights, and we talked a lot about everything from the Quebec situation to Ontario playing a role, but we'll focus a lot on the show with the local riding.
Let's check it out right now.
The polls tell us we're in for another minority government, either Liberals or Conservatives. The Eric Grenier compilation poll on CBC is pointing to probably a Liberal minority. Do you think at this point Justin Trudeau regrets calling this election less than 2 years into this term?
Oh, definitely. I think what happened is, I think they felt in terms of the federal government's response to COVID, all the measures they brought in, and the ability to work with the provinces to coordinate a response in a variety of ways, particularly on supplies, vaccines, things like that. I think they felt those numbers were quite strong then to carry over into an election to potentially get a majority, and it appears they've been considerably softer than they expected. And it's to the point where they really can't recover to, in any sense, feel they're going to get a majority for sure.
Now, the pollsters have said that the PPC, People's Party of Canada, will likely not win any seats, save for perhaps Bernier's riding in Quebec, but even that's not a guarantee. Right. The CBC poll tracker, the one that averages all the polling, today on September 15th has the PPC at 6.4%, higher than the Greens, but well behind the other parties. Is there anywhere in Canada, Terry, that you see that the PPC vote could be large enough to impact the Conservative vote and benefit the Liberals or NDP?
I mean, I think this is the problem. It's a little vague where the concentration of that vote is. I think it has surprised people a bit as to potentially how large it could be, because I think when you're getting that sort of scale of percentage, and the fact that PPC candidates and supporters are quite motivated, so I think you can probably say they're going to go out and vote in strong numbers and ways. How that plays out is a little bit unclear. I guess at this point I'm not unsure of where the support is concentrated, mainly because it's a bit of a new phenomena. But I think where probably in terms of fractions, where it plays out the most is particularly in the lower mainland in British Columbia, where there's some pretty close races down in the lower mainland. And like I say, if they're close between, the NDP and the Conservative or Liberal kind of breaking it up, there might be small fractions there. I'm not, and I guess this is, and probably more where you might see it is certainly in and around Toronto, the suburb area, exurbs, areas like that, where, there's strong competition between certainly the Conservatives and the Liberals there for the vote. I'm unsure of whether it's actually pulls away from the Conservative Party or whether the CCP message has actually activated potentially, voters you might not have seen out there before.
Locally, it seems to many that the race here might be between the NDP's Bill Sundue and Frank CAPUTO, the Conservative candidate, based on the fact that we've had a Conservative MP for the last 20 years, and and that Bill Sandhu seems to be, he did really well in 2015. And the NDP seems to be, like you mentioned earlier, they're very visible here. How do you see the local race panning out?
The only thing I can say is, and I'm not sure how accurate this is, was that with the 338 Canada poll, it really did sort of give the Conservatives a sense that they're going to retain the seat for sure. And I don't know how much flexibility there is in the vote between the Liberals and the Conservatives, the Liberals and the NDP,
right. Whether
you're going to get a significant shift enough to actually change that outcome remains to be seen for sure.
Yeah, we didn't in 2015. That was when Cathy McLeod had her greatest challenge from both the Liberal Steve Powery and Bill Sandhu. They both came within 3,000. But last election, which was only 2 years ago, Cathy McLeod absolutely had her largest margin of victory ever, and it was against what people thought was the star candidate, Terry Lake. So maybe based on that last election, the Conservatives have some momentum even going into this year.
Yeah, and I think, Cathy McLeod had really, positive name recognition, and long-standing name recognition around here. And I guess that's why I was even somewhat surprised by that poll, was how strong CAPUTO was doing, because I think, it didn't seem to make a significant difference. And then you get these, like I say, the Cathy McLeod's numbers last 2019 were really solid, definitely.
Yeah. I think the takeaways, and I think Terry Kading would agree, is that the biggest known is the unknown. We don't know what's really going to happen in this election, aside from the fact that we're going to wake up on Tuesday or Wednesday and we're going to be talking about Prime Minister Trudeau or Prime Minister O'Toole, and neither of them is going to have a strong mandate because they're going to have to rely on Jagmeet Singh and the Bloc Québécois to get any legislation done.
Final thoughts, politics, Kamloops, federally.
I just think that people, if you're going to vote for your candidate. If you want to strategically vote, do that too. Just vote, period, because this is your chance to have your say.
Politics and sports, they've been combined lately too much with mandates and restrictions, and you can do this, you can't do that. Finally, tomorrow night, fans back in Sandman Centre, so we're going to focus a bit on the Blazers in our next segment, which is the title of Hastings. That right there is Kamloops Blazers defenseman Mats Lindgren. He's one of the top young players on the team. He's an NHL prospect. He's a top WHL prospect. And do you remember his dad, Mats?
I do. We talked about this before, and I kind of got him confused with Lars Lindgren, who's a very famous Canuck from the V days. But I do remember Mats Lindgren, early 2000s. He played a season or two with Vancouver, and I do, yeah.
Yeah, I talked to Mats Lindgren, the father, about that season, and he was injured for a lot of it. He said he was on the third line with Trevor Linden. It's one of his great regrets is that he got hurt because he loved that team. That was the same, or the year after that was the Todd Bertuzzi incident, which we talked about briefly. You won't see that in this clip coming up, but I'll post that as a standalone on YouTube. Anyway, what I didn't know about Mats is he has a sister named Gabrielle. She's an up-and-coming tennis player, wants to be a pro. She's 15 years old. Really international flavor in this family. Matt's the dad from Sweden. Their family moved to Sweden for about 10 years. The mom was born in Honduras and grew up in Vancouver, and she's also an athlete. So I asked Matt about his family, about his career, and I also asked Shaun Clouston, the Blazers head coach, about the whole situation with Matt and his upcoming 17-year-old season. Check it out right here.
He's taught me so much with the on-ice stuff and the off-ice stuff. I definitely wouldn't be where I am without him. He's a huge role model for me. He's the person I look up to, and I kind of try to be like him, and he's taught me so much for my whole life, and I think I wouldn't be here without him.
What about your skating? Everyone talks about your skating. How did you become such a good skater?
I'd say that was my dad too. He's doing edge work almost every day, and back in Sweden, that's kind of all they do, is to work on their edges, almost from when you start skating and then you just keep doing it, you just keep repeating it, and I think that's been a huge thing for my skating.
His skating is impressive. It's probably his edge work. I mean, he can open his hips up. He can be on his inside edges. He can be on his outside edges. He's got good balance, which allows him to tight turn. So very elusive, very mobile. And then the thing that the last sort of part of that is just the power. And as he gets older and gets stronger, just that that power added to it. So now he's not just going to be a great skater, he's going to add that speed element.
One of the big things I wanted to improve was my shot, and he's getting a little bigger, so I can kind of compete with the bigger guys in the league. I think last year I got pushed around a little bit, so that's something I really wanted to work on, and I think I've done a really good job, and I feel good.
He's got incredible talent. He's a terrific skater. He's a world-class skater. I think the thing that is really great to see right now is he's added a little bit of strength. He's added a little power to his shot. I mean, everybody develops at kind of different stages physically, and he's starting to fill out a little bit, which is real good. I mean, he's a young 17-year-old player, but it's nice to see some added strength, and I think with that he's got a little bit more confidence on the ice right now. He's not forcing plays, he's allowing them to happen, and he's having a terrific camp.
Everybody in this town knows who you are. You're getting media attention from guys like me. There was an article in the province about you. People know who your dad was. It's a hockey mad city. So how are you handling all of that?
Pretty good. For me, it's pretty fun to see those things, and it kind of I feel good because it kind of shows that the work that I've been putting in is kind of paying off, and I think the work doesn't stop here though. I just got to keep working and kind of get to that next level, and just try to work as hard as I can, and hopefully I get drafted in June.
Do you get concerned about players when they're getting so much attention and how that affects them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on players these days. I mean, this is the draft year. Everybody's got agents. Everybody's aware of what everybody else is doing on other teams. So yeah, it's tough. I think what we try to do is encourage the players to be in the moment, have some fun on a day-to-day basis, enjoy the process, have some fun with practice. For the guys, turn the tunes up, and have a good workout, and just enjoy the day. And if you do that, kind of day by day, you give it your best. I mean, it's going to turn out really good. That's what we believe with him. It's going to turn out great.
I want to ask you about your sister. She's a high-level tennis player. Where is she at in her career?
She's 15 years old. She's playing J3. It's a few levels down from pro, so she's very young to be playing that high level. So I think she's going to get there soon to pro, and just can't wait to see her accomplish that.
How were you competitive as siblings growing up? Athletically, you and your sister.
Yeah, I guess when I was younger, I used to put my sister in the net, and I used to shoot and stuff. So that was pretty fun. I can't beat my sister in tennis though. I couldn't beat her when I was maybe 11 years old even. She's that good, so I think it's pretty competitive. We had some good moments together.
I talked to your son today a bit about your family in general. I think they're off in Spain. Your wife and your daughter are in Spain. You're in North Van, Mats is in Kamloops. So I'd like to kind of touch on all that. It's pretty interesting to me, the whole international flavor of your family.
It's not as dramatic as, it might sound or look like, I think. We always supported, each other, all four of us. And when it comes to the kids, I think it's just more kind of supporting them and trying to give them the opportunity to, follow their dreams. They have a huge passion for their sports. But that being said, it's lonely. You know what I mean? Like, it's lonely for me being, all of a sudden it's just me and the dog, which I'm not used to at all.
Mats is getting a good opportunity in Kamloops, but for a while there, it looked like he was going to be going to Michigan. So I wanted to ask you about what was it really that sold Mats and yourself and your family on changing course and coming to Kamloops?
Well, I think one of the things, first of all, like when you're going to go the college path, you're going to have to wait, a few years down the road. And I do think that, the WHL is the best junior league in the world. And I do think that you have to be playing with the best to, try to reach your goals. And Matsi obviously was feeling that too. Michigan seems quite far away down the road, and Blazer was just around the corner. And of course, for him, looking at the facility and talking to the coaches and everybody there, he got a really good feeling, and we supported the decision.
What's it like for a parent who's also a former NHLer to watch his son start going through all these things with the extra attention he's getting?
I mean, I do think it helped that I've gone through it myself. The good thing with him is he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's one of the most important thing, like it's don't listen too much about things that are good or bad or whatever it might be. Like you have a dream to kind of go as far as you can in your game, and there's a lot of stuff going on all the time. But like in the end of the day, and you know, both myself and my wife, like we want them to enjoy this. You know what I mean? Like it's a great time of your life. You know what I mean? You're a young kid, you know, playing junior hockey and in front of hopefully a lot of people. So I think the most important thing is that you really enjoy this journey.
Like I said earlier, you can check that whole interview out on YouTube on Kamloops Last Week. Just search for it, you'll find it. Vancouver Canucks. You're a Canucks fan. You have been. What's your greatest Canucks memories?
Well, the greatest memory, of course, it's the only memory that counts, is the '94 season, the greatest season in hockey, in music, probably in Foulds' life. The Canucks came within a Nathan Lafayette goalpost of sending Game 7 into overtime at Madison Square Garden. That was the greatest run in hockey. And also that happened to be the year the Lions won the Grey Cup. First team to beat the American Stallions. So that was a neat year. That was the Canucks going to the great Game 7, losing in Game 7. 6 months later, the Lions win the Grey Cup at home. Fast forward to 2011, Canucks go to Game 7, lose to Boston in Game 7. 6 months later, the Lions win the Grey Cup at home. And in both years, the fans rioted.
Yeah, 1994 Fouldsy too. That must have been peak Fouldsy. Where were you for the Lions win that night?
I was in the crowd. I was
in the stadium?
I was in the end zone, and we imbibed a bit too much, because when Bisaglia sent it through to win 26-23, and everyone started cheering and getting up, I thought it was halftime.
Oh boy, that is peak Fouldsy.
And then I got lost in the frenzy. Ended up on the C bus alone, going the wrong way. It was a very good night.
Mats Lindgren was not on that Canucks team.
Nope.
Victor Persson plays for the Kamloops Blazers. He's at the NHL training camp with the Canucks right now. He's one of 6 Blazers who are doing that right now and will not be at the game tomorrow night. But that just gives us a lot of opportunity to look at some of the younger players. And we're going to ask Jon Keen about some of those younger players in our next segment, which is Last Week, This Week. That right there is John Harris Keen, the play-by-play man, one of the best in the league for the Kamloops Blazers. That's the color man, Jeremy Bosch. He's married to Jessica Wallace.
Handsome fella.
What do you think about that team right there?
I think it's probably the best looking, best sounding team in the Western Hockey League for sure.
And you know Keen through the CFL pool that you run. How's that going? How's the trash talk going?
Jon Keen, he's not a cheap man, but he can't afford an H.
Oh,
no,
boy.
but he's in our CFL pool. I run a great CFL pool, 12 hardcore CFL fans. We've run it for 6 years, and right now John's in the middle of the pack. He's 6th out of 12th in the standings, but in the last 6 years, he's been in the money 4 to 6 years, and he's the champion of 2015, so he knows his Canadian football.
All right, let's bring John in right now. John, what's going on today? How you doing?
Hey, great. Last week, Cleek, long-time listener, first-time caller today, guys. So let's get it done.
Did you see that photo I had? You're lucky I didn't put up that old Freddy Krueger pic I have of you, that one picture from, oh, we lost you. Sorry. Do you remember that day that I interviewed you back in 2010?
Yeah, I do. I do completely, yeah. We've chatted a couple times since then here. So that was sort of my introduction. That's been, what was that? I guess that would have been 11 years ago now or something crazy like that. Time flies.
Yeah, how does it feel like that time's passed, and what are some of your fondest memories of your time in Kamloops with the Blazers?
Oh boy, yeah, I just can't believe it. It was 11 years just like that. There's been some tough times. The first few years were some tough times, but I think back to Game 6.
Ranford's on to Waddell, side of the goal. He'll spin to the far corner, beat the blue line. Nashmeyer wants to fire.
But it's been a great run. I've been here now. I'm married, and my wife works for the hockey team as well. And there's been a lot of good memories. There's been a lot of what could have been recently, guys, because this team's been pretty good the past 2 years, and even though they can hang up a couple of division banners here, it just doesn't quite feel like maybe it should feel, given the fact this team has been so good, and really they've been building towards this time, and sort of had some of it taken away.
Before we continue with the Blazer talk, let's get back to the CFL for a second. You're a huge Riders fan. You grew up in Sasky, a Lanigan guy. How's that CFL pool going?
Fouldsy, you know what, puts a lot of work into this. And by the way, I appreciate the work that goes into this show, guys, because a lot of people wouldn't know the editing and everything that has to go into it. And you guys have been able to pull this off. So kudos to you. But Fouldsy, when it comes to the CFL pool, there's not a lot of hardcore CFLers out west in BC, I'm finding. So kind of finding some guys that I can run with. That's great. And Fouldsy, he just called me cheap. He's right. I never pay my entry fee to the end of the season because I always feel like I'll be in the money anyways.
And he usually is.
Yeah. And I know that irks some of the newspaper poolies out there that we're in, but Fouldsy does a great job running the pool, and I'm always laboring over my picks every week.
Let me ask you a question regarding announcing before we get into the Blazers stuff. When we grew up, Jim Robson was the guy. He was the announcer par excellence. And then before that, nationally, Danny Gallivan. When you grew up, who did you look up to? I know you don't want to emulate, you want your own style, which you do have. But when you were growing up and wanted to be an announcer, who did you look to?
Guys, the best is Bob Cole. I mean, my generation's going to be Bob Cole. There's no doubt. Who else captures sort of that building anticipation of a hockey game? You think of Bob Cole, and he goes in sort of 5 gears. He might be in a first gear in the first period, but when the game's on the line, he really elevates and gets into that fourth and fifth gear. You think of how he's able to sort of all bring that together into the final minute or two of a hockey game, and how he really raises it. And he had a lengthy career, and we're going to miss him. But I think he's fantastic. The next generation guy for me is Chris Cuthbert. Just has the right thing to say at the right time, and really elevates his game too as well. But Chris Cuthbert for me is a guy that I met when I was really young and I've looked up to. And Bob Cole, never got the chance to meet him, but those are two of my favorites for sure.
John, you talk about sometimes letting it breathe, and you're a guy, okay, you like to talk even during your own golf swing sometimes. So, but you do that on the air. You let it breathe sometimes. And Aspen Sturger's goal, remember that in Game 6 where you just let it breathe after that?
Blazers.
Why do you do that?
Well, a lot of times, guys, it's not going to be the announcers telling the story. It's going to be the atmosphere, the ambiance, especially on radio when so much of it is theater of the mind, right? We don't have that visual element for the most part. Sure, there's webcasts, but for our listeners, I'm focused on the radio broadcast. And you know what? 5,000-6,000 screaming fans can tell the story a lot better than I can. And a lot of times, if I have a color man, I saw that picture with me and Bosher there, I'll put my hands out just stop, guys, just whoa, just calm down and just let it breathe a little bit here. Let the fans soak into it here. And I really love the audio, the theater of the mind, crowd noise. I mean, that is what sort of separates our medium. And that's why I always want to be hooked right up into the crowd and get a feel for it, because they portray, any sort of message you could hope for.
And we've been missing that with the fans. That comes back tomorrow. You get that crowd noise to work with again. Let's talk about the team, your expectations for the team this season.
Well, guys, I think they're going to be another good team. There's no doubt. They have a lot of returning roster players from the last couple of years, and they've been very good. They can roll out a top 9 forward group tomorrow, led by Logan Stankoven and Josh Pillar and guys like that. Caden Bankier, Matthew Semenoff. We're going to see a big jump in the likes of Fraser Minton. And that's why I'm excited this year, because our fans never really got the opportunity to see this new young crop up in person here. Really, even Logan Stankoven. We've talked about him forever. We had a 63-game regular season when he was 16, and he lit the world on fire. And then last year, and now he's 18, he could be a 50-goal guy, 50, 60-goal guy. So that's huge. And, I really like where they're at. Sure, I think they're a couple pieces away from being, on par from where they've been the last couple of years. But this is a team that's going to be really exciting to watch. They are going to be very competitive in the BC division and should compete again to be one of the top teams out west once again.
Yeah, I've noticed on Twitter a couple of times you've mentioned they're a young team. I mean, are you tempering expectations by doing that, or is that actually what you believe? Are you trying to be a good soldier and make sure the expectations don't go up here for this group of young guys?
Well, I got my foam finger here, guys, but what I can say is that they are young. Look at the roster; their core is still 17 or 18 years old. You know, Logan Stankoven, for as good as he is, he's still 18, and it's tough for 18-year-olds to really carry a team. This predominantly over the years has been a 19 and 20-year-old league. You have to make hay with your older players, and there isn't a lot of older players on this team. You know, the Blazers feel they have probably the best 17-year-olds in the WHL. They think they have the best 18-year-olds as well, but you still win and make hay with your 19 and 20-year-olds. So as much as I would like to downplay things, that's the reality. They're still a young club. They definitely lose some top players. You know, last time we saw this team, you know, the veterans like Zane Franklin, Oren Centazzo, Max Martin, Ryan Hughes, those guys are all gone. And they were veteran players. So who's going to replace them? Are they there yet? They're not there yet, but I think they could get there, you know, late in the season for sure.
Kamloops lost the Memorial Cup bid to Kelowna, and it was infamously, Ghilardi was upset about it, and it didn't seem like the right choice. COVID came there and basically confirmed that. When does Kamloops next a bid on it, and it's going to align well with these players? I would think if it's in the next 2 or 3 years.
100%. Well, it's 2023, Fouldsy. Like it's next season, and who's your core of your team? Logan Stankoven's 19, Caden Bankier's 19, Matthew Semenoff is 19. So it really aligns with the peak of this cycle. And it's up for grabs in 2023. Kelowna could show interest, but, you know, they really, you know, as much as the Blazers got a raw deal with COVID, they really did. I mean, you know, they gave up 4 first-round Bantam picks to enable to bolster their roster that never came to fruition. They'll be interested, and they'll probably have a little bit of the sympathy of the Board of Governors, just based on how it was taken away. But if you want to go, you know, and Tom Ghilardi said it, you know, who was the best team that year? Well, the Blazers were the best team. Who will be the best team next year? That's up for grabs. But on paper, I think the Blazers for sure will like where they're at. And I think they have the assets. They have the bullets in the chamber. They have a full complement of draft picks. They have 5 picks here in the first 3 rounds coming up in December. So they have the assets. They have the talent. Will they make a formal bid at it? I hope they do. They haven't yet announced that yet.
Training camp, standouts for you. Who, other than kind of the big name guys that people know, who stood out for you?
Well, I know you did a feature on Fraser Minton. I really liked where he's at. The one thing with Fraser is he had a lot of talent as a 16-year-old, and he plays well above his age. But in the WHL, you need a little bit of swagger. You need a little bit of jam, right? And he's starting to get that jam. He's starting to get a little bit of swagger. He scored the game winner in the 3-on-3 challenge on the weekend there on a breakaway in overtime. And he had this lengthy, drawn-out celebration as he slid across all the way to center ice on one knee and did the classic bow and arrow thing. And I was like, you know what? Great. Give me some of that swagger. You know, I think he's going to be excellent. Another player I think we're going to see take a step is Mats Lindgren. We're going to see Connor Levis, who has an all-world shot at 17 already. There's a clip of the Blazers lighting up the Rockets late last season. It was the goal that made it 6-0, and the goal was Minton to Lindgren, cross ice to Levis, and he just ripped it. Like, I was in the booth and I kind of chuckled to myself, like, this kid's 16. I mean, these guys are going to be good for a while. This year, next year, and probably the year after. So these young guys are what I'm really excited about. And, you know, I want to see Victor Persson as well. We're going to already call him the Swedish Missile because he's been fantastic on YouTube. He's got some crazy highlights on YouTube. He's going to be 20. He's going to come in and be a top 4 defenseman. I can't wait to see what he's all about.
Yeah, I talked to Fraser Minton. He does have that Yaletown glitz and glamour. You've been to that keg in Yaletown, haven't you? That patio up there?
Well, I think it's an amazing story. I mean, you know, you live in suburbia, but, you know, he has to take a bus and then a C bus just to get to his home rink. And he'll play pickup hockey whenever he gets the opportunity. I mean, he's not your traditional skating on the back pond in Saskatchewan, the dugout that's frozen over. I mean, this is a new hybrid of hockey we're seeing for sure.
Yeah. Fouldsy, anything for Keen?
No, just it's exciting to see the fans come back. I'm glad the restrictions got reversed, and I guess there was a scramble to get things going, and the team did really well because tomorrow night, just a few days after the restrictions, you got fans lining up to buy tickets. It's good to see. It's really good to see.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that's great. I mean, fans are starved. I know there was some in local media that were like, "Oh, the hockey's been gone so long that fans won't even remember who this team is." But I think that was proved wrong this week with the lineup, and it's just going to be a real young roster Friday night. But guys, I mean, we're going in the right direction. You mentioned the restrictions being lifted. I mean, now we're seeing Alberta in a bit of trouble now too, but hopefully we're optimistic on things. I know it's not really media's way to be optimistic. We're more doom and gloomers, but I'm going to try to be optimistic as much as possible about the season, about COVID, and really appreciate you guys checking in on me.
Business has to be good for Stacey Keen too. Shout out to you, Stacey Keen. We love you here at KLW. John, how many games for you now in the league? Are you at 1,500 yet?
No, I don't think I'm at 1,500. I did 1,000 a few years ago. So I don't know, ballpark probably 1,200 or so. I'm not much of a game counter. I know some guys around the league, you can ask them and they'll know this is game number 1,132.
You want your Keen bobblehead night. You want to roll it out there.
No, you know what? It's not about me. It never has been. It's about the players and, these interviews and things. I know, Marty, you've probably given me the most attention of anybody in the city, and I appreciate that. But you know what? It's a fun ride. We work in media. We can't take ourselves too seriously, and it's all a battle, and it's changing, right? Like you look at you guys doing as newspaper guys with ink-stained hands. You're doing a digital show every week here, which, I mean, good for you guys. I mean, adapt or die, right? We've seen a lot of media in this town unable to do that, and it's all about sort of the new wave right now.
Yeah, just bugging you about the bobblehead night. You're not a me guy. You're definitely one of the best in the league. A buddy of mine, and we couldn't do this show. Quick plug, River Song Guitars, Lee's Music, Mike and Bonnie, making us look good behind the camera. John, thanks for joining us. It's been fantastic.
All right, guys, and Fouldsy, who is a bachelor bro of mine up there, lives above me in a palatial
elite, bachelor elite.
Looks over to lower batch. He looks down with me with his morning coffee. But he's got one of the best dogs in Bachelor, the Bernedoodle, which I see quite a bit of. So, Fouldsy, always great to chat with you.
I don't know. Darby gets a bit aggressive sometimes on my leg. I'll just leave it at that.
John's got a great dog too. It was on the IR for a while, but he's back. What's your dog's name?
Blue. Yeah, Blue.
That's right.
He gets more TV time and FaceTime than I do. He's on the Petland commercials all the time. You'll see him. Right. So
good-looking dog.
Yeah, so he's been a good boy. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the Blazers certainly are not underdogs this season. I think they're among the favorites. And John, it's been a treat. Have a good day.
All right, great transition, Marty. Thanks, guys.
Get your picks in.
Get your picks in.
I will. I'll do it right now.
Thanks.
Okay. Thoughts on the Keen interview?
Oh, Keen's a good guy. He's I like how his passion. He remembers plays to pass to pass, and he can remember probably every little play that we forget. I like how he mentioned Game 6 in Kamloops. If you say Game 6, like if you say the save, everyone knows it's the 94 save of Kirk McLean. If you say Game 6 here, that's all you have to say to a Blazer fan. You know it's that Game 6 against Portland. I was there with my son in the stands, and the fact that he has all those memories and then some, and the fact that he could just bring them up like that shows you that this is more than just a job for him.
And I think a lot of people don't know about these broadcasters. When I grew up, I thought you're supposed to be calling it down the middle. Mm-hmm. When you work for a Western Hockey League team, that is not your job. Your job is to pump the team up. Yeah. He rides with the team on the bus. He stays at the hotels. It's his job to make these players look good, which is different than my job. Yeah. It's a bit different, and he does a hell of a job of that. It's also not easy because Keen has his opinions, and on the air he sometimes has to check himself. I know when he was younger he maybe didn't check himself as much, and he's kind of learned that to toe the line a little bit better on the air. Filter. Yeah. Although the Americans sometimes, American crowds kind of get it from him. And Marty the Marmot in Victoria. He has a bit of a rivalry with Marty the Marmot in Victoria.
Marty the Marmot. Yeah.
That's it for the show today. Thanks again to Mike and Bonnie. Thanks to River Song Guitars, Lee's Music. Our title sponsor, New Leaf Produce Market.
If he goes real close, you can smell the salt water from his trip to lovely Ladysmith.
To lovely Ladysmith. And also, I forgot to mention, Twin River Painting sponsored the Tattle of Hastings segment. I'll make sure I give him some love with some logos popping up on the screen. My guy, Brendan Krauser. We've been live, we've been on tape from downtown Kamloops. It's been Kamloops last week, and we will see you last week.
Last.